Welcome to Fellowship Safaris, conversations about people of color and their journeys to subspecialist training in their countries of origin and around the world. Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode of Fellowship Safaris podcast. My name is Dr. Jerry Kariajahe. I'm a consultant pediatrician and adolescent medicine specialist based in Nairobi, Kenya. Today, I have the honor and privilege. I know I've been having a lot of honors and privileges. However, this one has been a long time coming because we'd had a conversation last year and it was those fleeting conversations for, yeah, you let me know. And now the you let me know has come. I have had the privilege of working with my next guest, I think for about 10 years, give or take.
Probably.
Thereabouts, right?
Yeah.
And we've been in similar circles. We've been in the trenches together. And even just before we started recording, just reminiscing on just how similar versus different our experiences were when we were younger doctors. However, I really don't want to get ahead of myself. I would like for her to introduce herself and what her professional qualifications are.
Okay, thank you, Jerry. Yes, so my name is Dr. Phanice Okara. I am a consultant neonatologist and a pediatrician as well, based in Nairobi, Kenya.
Karibu sana. As I've been thinking through our interaction today and even previous conversations, the first thing I was wondering is, in terms of medicine, how did you land on medicine being the thing you wanted to do?
That's an interesting question. I actually wanted to do medicine when I was younger, so like in primary school.
Yeah.
But then when I got to high school, I was also interested in IT. So I ended up doing computer studies. I think was like the second class that did it as an exam or something like that.
After the school bought computers.
I know, yes.
Yeah.
and stopped buying the typewriters and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So at that point, I was torn between the two. And then I ended up doing a diploma in computer studies, which for the love of me right now, I don't have any recollection of any of those skills.
You were actually serious in that direction of IT.
Yes. That was just after high school.
Yeah.
But I went on and applied for medicine. That time I wasn't too sure whether I'd be taken in or not.
Yeah.
Whichever one would work, that's fine.
Yeah.
And I actually had to talk to my parents about which course do I do, which direction do I go in.
Yeah.
And my mom gave me an interesting idea of you just try medicine, and if it doesn't work out in a year, you can definitely go into IT.
Wait, you had an out of medicine?
I had an out, yes.
You had an out?
I was crying. I was disturbed, as in
because you had too many options.
I couldn't decide.
What?
And I remember I actually got into medicine, and almost a month before, I think I'm a bit like a preemie because I change my mind sometimes, and I'm a bit more anxious and cautious. Part of me thought people who do medicine are too clever. I don't think I'm that clever. I don't think I can do this. As in, I thought it would be such a struggle. For me to do medicine, and I thought it was way beyond me.
At the time?
At that time, I was like, this is way beyond me. I don't think I can do this.
So what made you change your mind?
So my mom gave me the out, which was going to medicine. If you don't like it in a year or within the year, you can leave. I think she knew once I started, chances of me dropping out would be 0%. When I got in, I met my friends on the queue.
Yeah.
For registration.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was my path to medicine now.
Yeah. Wow. And how's that transition from now first year to second year when you realize the out is timing out?
I was excited. I mean, passing first year, exciting.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, maybe I could do this.
Yeah. You mentioned neonatology. Was it within med school or after med school that you were like, this could be a thing?
So during med school, in fourth year, I was very drawn into paediatrics.
Yeah.
Actually inspired by Prof.
Wow.
Who used to teach us every afternoon.
Yes.
Every afternoon. And I used to find it so interesting that he would make us guess children's ages. Like he would just ask you, how old do you think this child is? And he would have a conversation with the child.
Yeah.
At the time, we thought he was like a magician, like this genius.
What are you doing?
Yes,
How can you?
Yes. Now I think about it, and he was using developmental milestones.
Yes. But at the time, that's such a great way to teach people.
Exactly.
Because you're being told, observe. Like, take a look, because that's what milestones is.
Exactly.
We've gone into pediatrics, kidogo, but it is what milestones is.
Yeah.
I had forgotten that's what Prof Memo used to do.
Yeah, he used to do that.
Yeah.
So I got passionate about pediatrics then.
Yeah.
When I finished, did internship, loved my internship in pediatrics.
Yeah.
Then worked in one of the hospitals that I think that's where we probably met.
That's where we met.
Yes.
Yeah. So let me just ask, during internship, what did you love most about the peds part?
For me, the skills came very easy. And then where I was, whichever town that was in Kenya.
You can say the town, don't worry.
Yes.
Now, it's years later.
I was in Meru and
Yes.
I learnt Meru within a month.
Kimeru?
Yes. It was my first rotation.
Yes.
And I remember the first few history-taking sessions.
Yes.
The nurses would interpret for you. So this means convulsion. This is what they're saying. That's vomiting. They're coughing. It's been there for 5 days, like that.
Yeah.
And within, I think, 2 weeks, I could just keep writing and no one else was talking.
What?
And it just fascinated me. And then the mothers were so young.
Yeah.
And you could change so much. You could do such a small thing and it changes so much in that child's life, in the family's life. So I got so passionate about that.
Yeah.
And back then in government, children's health costs were almost free.
Yes.
So you could admit a child and see them walk away on the day they were supposed to walk away, as opposed to other specialties.
Yeah.
Like I think medicine and surgery, you'd have an adult walking in coma and you couldn't do much until they had the money to pay for an MRI.
Yes.
They couldn't even get a blood test done. So it just felt like things were not moving here. But then pediatrics, things are moving. As in, whatever it is that you wanted to do, you could do it. You could get results the next day. You could start treatment. They could go home in the 3 or 4 days that they were supposed to go home.
Yeah.
So it felt like, okay, this is a good field to work in. And I felt like if I went into another field, I'd be frustrated.
And so the internship process in PEDS helped fuel that even more.
Absolutely, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And when you did get into PEDS, was it everything you ever wished and dreamed it should be?
I think so. My first rotation again. So the interesting thing is my first rotation in internship was PEDS.
Yes.
Then my first rotation in pediatric training was neonatology. So it was busy, it was active, things were moving.
It was hot.
It was hot.
It was hot all the time.
And I think I just thrive in that kind of environment, high pressure sort of environment. So I loved it. I actually did more weeks in NBU than anywhere else.
More weeks in the newborn unit than anywhere else.
Yeah, you know those extra weeks in second year before you transition to third year? I think I was in NBU.
You happily did NBU is what it sounds like.
Yes, I did NBU.
Oh my gosh. NBU used to make me sweat bullets. As in, they're so small. Things change, Yani, so quickly.
Yes.
And I think that piece of it, while it excited other people, I was like, Manze, no. Yeah. No. Yeah. That being said, I recognize that, around the world, in terms of pediatrics, it's mostly neonatologists, like 80% of pediatricians subspecialized in neonatology. So neonatologists don't kill me. I'm just opening up my heart. So even that time, you are just being geared towards neonatology.
Yeah, I think so. I felt like I'm being pushed in a certain direction. Not in a bad way, but as in that things are just lining up in a certain way.
Yeah.
So neonatology. My study in postgrad was on HIE.
Yeah, what's HIE?
Hypoxic ischemic encephalopathy. So birth asphyxia or difficulty breathing at birth.
Yeah.
So I just felt like, okay, I think we're going in a certain direction here.
Yes.
But I was already passionate about it in those first 3 months. Mm-hmm. So I already knew if I was ever going to subspecialize, that's the direction I want to go in. Mm-hmm. It's going to be neonatology.
And in terms of, so now you've finished peds, you've started practicing. How long was it between finishing peds and starting to say, now I need to go back and do neonatology?
Actually, 2 years. And I think from the point I finished, because I finished August 2015.
Yeah.
September 2017, I was in my fellowship.
How did you figure out which fellowship?
I think one of the things was there was someone who in 2016 had gone before us, Nupur had gone before us. So she was already in UK. I think initially when UK was starting to be an option, no one was sure about, can you practice? Are you going to be able to start a baby? Things like that.
Yeah.
But when she got there and then it seemed like, oh, wait, this is an option. This is a path. And at the time, there wasn't any training in Kenya on neonatology. So we just started processing. I started processing in, I think, 2017. Got accepted in, I think, May, June. Then now you start the whole processing of immigration.
Yeah.
Before then starting in 2017.
Now, before starting in 2017. So how many months was it to process like all these documents? Because I keep hearing all sorts of different experiences.
I think for us, my experience was a little different from hers.
Yeah.
Because we had to get our IELTS test. So this is the English test that you have to do. Yeah, proficiency test that you have to do.
Yeah.
Before, they would allow you to put in the rest of your application and then do the English test after.
Yeah.
But for us, so I think I did my English test in January of 2017.
Yeah.
Then started putting up, because I had the requirements with me. So start running around Nairobi looking for different
things.
Yes.
While still working.
Exactly. So on your day off, you even sort of sort out your days off so that you can have time to actually read for the IELTS test.
Yes.
Which, it seems easy.
It seems easy, but then for some reason, who speaks like that? Like there are times I'm just like, I've done the test and I'm just like, I've been taught in English.
Yes.
I speak English most of the time to the bane of my relas. They're like, Yani, not even a lick of mother tongue.
I know.
But then you have to sit and do this language
You have to sit and do it.
Yeah.
And it seems like a very easy thing. Speak it, write it, read it.
Those comprehension things.
And you're like, that's so easy. That's what I do every day. So, I mean, why do I need to? But it's just like any other exam. You have to prepare for it.
Yeah, and it's really expensive. So just do it and get it over.
Do it and exactly. So then after that, that's when I started now going through like the university, getting your transcripts, getting everything ready.
Yeah.
Going back to the board, getting a police conduct check thing.
Yeah.
You've never been arrested or anything like that.
Yes, yeah.
And I think those were the initial things.
Yeah.
So you put all that together. And at the time, I think you also had to put in like your curriculum. What was your curriculum in pediatrics? So you have to go back to the university and they give you a written paperwork that shows exactly what you did in each department.
Plus and your grades in each and everything.
Yeah.
And the thing that I found and I continue to find interesting is the cost of it. In terms of, I remember having another guest on and they were like, hey, these things were expensive.
Yeah.
I was like, then initially I was like, yes, 10,000. Then they were like, which application did you do? So do you remember how much it cost you that time to just put everything together and do all these things,
at the time,
plus immigration?
Oh God, it must have been, it could be 50. By the way, because when you
50?
Because you need the thing from, there's a document you get from the board.
Yes.
Or the council now.
Yeah, the council now.
Says that you're in good conduct or something like that.
Yes.
That costs 20K.
Yeah.
Then you go to the university and there's the 5K thing.
Yes.
Then you go to the police and I can't remember, that was 1,000, I think.
There's like a thing, yes. There's a cost.
Then your IELTS test at the time was 20K.
Yes.
We already reached 45.
Yes, we're already at 45. You haven't started immigration. There are all these little things that you have to do in preparation.
With immigration, it was actually way more.
And the reason why I'm insisting on going through this is because sometimes people are like, oh, what does it take? And I'm just like, please start saving up money. The pro tip is just start saving up money because as you're preparing for these things, at every step, I'm yet to find a step that doesn't require any money.
Yeah.
Apart from filling in your name and your address, usually the other things
everything
usually
else
cost money.
Yeah.
And at that time, did you share with people that, you're looking to the UK, planning to go?
1 or 2 people.
Yeah.
I'm very superstitious. I think I told you this before, yeah?
Yeah.
Very superstitious. So,
superstitious in what way? Because I think I'm superstitious different.
Sometimes I don't talk about things that I'm doing.
Yeah.
Because I feel like if I do, it's like I'm jinxing myself. One.
Yeah.
I'm the kind of person who will come in for a night shift and not say, "Oh, we're going to have a good night."
No one does that.
Yeah, I know.
You
but
really
it
should
just
not
feels,
do
yeah, exactly.
that.
And all the nurses will tell you, don't say that. Don't hurry.
Yeah. And that's the world over.
Yes. And the day you say it is the day you will have 55 deliveries and 3 of them are in the NICU and 1 died and it's just, it's a horror.
Drama.
Yes.
Yeah. So you're superstitious. So you didn't share with very many people.
I didn't share. I think people around me may also have felt like she just up and went one day.
I kind of felt that
yes.
way by the way. I was just like, where's Phanice? Oh, you don't know she's in the UK? I'm like, I'm pretty sure many of us don't know that you left for the UK.
I don't think, it was like even in my family. And I come from a community where people are very superstitious.
Yes.
I am kissy, so it's
people,
always there. As in, I've always grown around it. So my family was like, "Don't tell anyone."
Yes.
Until you reach there. Don't tell anyone.
You're in your house.
Yes.
And you have established yourself.
You are settled. And, our prayers have worked.
Yes.
You have reached. Don't tell anyone.
Yes, don't tell anyone.
Yes.
I get that so much. Fast forward to the fellowship experience in the UK. Mm-hmm. What was that for you, landing in?
Oh, wow. Steep learning curve. And I say this because Aluvala kind of called me out once for it.
Yeah.
But essentially, in terms of knowledge, I think we're at par.
We as Kenyans, in terms of our
we're learning the same
knowledge.
Things. Yeah, as in, we're learning the same things. The difference is we don't have some of the resources they had. So I'm seeing nitric for the first time. I'm seeing a frequency oscillator for the first time.
Meanwhile, we used to read them in Nelson.
Yes.
We just used to see them in the books,
And when you are writing, an essay about it, you'd reach somewhere at the bottom and write, this can be used as well.
Can be used.
Yes.
You've never actually
seen them.
Right.
So learning to do that, I think the hardest, for me, the first 3 months, the hardest thing to do was getting a capillary sample from a heel. It was torture. There's a skill to it.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't get it. And I remember once I just had to tell one of my colleagues, please just go back, because I think it was the 4th time I was pricking the baby.
Wow. And it's a skill you had to learn.
You had to learn it.
Yeah.
You can't, in UK, you can't get away with it because everything that's done on the baby is literally done by the doctors.
Yeah.
Very few are done by nurses. And there are very few hospitals that have a phlebotomist. So you have to do, if a baby needs samples, you have to do it. If a baby needs an ultrasound, you have to do it. Yes.
So you learned ultrasound?
I learned how to do a head ultrasound.
Wow.
Because the consultant will come and say, these are the things we need done on this baby.
Yeah.
So you either tell them, I can't do an ultrasound, and so they'll show you how to do it.
Right.
The beauty is there's a lot of mentorship and learning. So, of course, you do it, you interpret it.
Yeah.
You take it back to them and they tell you, no, we think it's this grade, it's not this grade, things like that. So you learn that way.
Yeah.
But that was very interesting. So my first few months was, no. I can't, no, please ask me to do something else.
Anything else but this thing.
Yeah, so it took some time before those skills came in.
Yeah.
Some of the things were a little easier because I learned them from my previous experience training in pediatrics.
Which I don't like those skills, by the way. They used to make me feel so ick.
Yeah.
I used to be like, why? Who wants to do this thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you just...
But for you, it was a skill that...
Yeah, it was a skill that just...
you loved.
Yeah, I loved it. Yeah. Came in easy. And all those skills actually come with a bit of luck. Because I can ask you and Jerry to put an IV in me.
Yeah.
And fast try, it'll go in.
Yeah.
or it can take you 10 tries and the vein is right there.
Right.
So there's a bit of luck.
Yeah.
And there's a bit of superstition there because with a friend of mine, she used to do the same thing I used to do. Every time I put a line, I ask for 3 cannulas.
Yes.
And even I feel like if I ask for one, I'm jinxing myself.
And you're going to miss it.
And I'm going to miss it. So I ask for 3.
Yeah.
I set them up.
Yes.
I clean the hand.
Yeah.
I use the first one and it goes in.
But the minute you're feeling overconfident and you just ask for one.
If I ask for one or 2, no. I'm going to use both of them. So a lot of that.
Yeah.
I had to do a few trainings as well.
Yeah.
Just to make sure, I could keep up with my skills, basically, especially with the ultrasound.
Yeah.
Because that was something that we never did at the time. We never did. I mean, there are people who've come in after and they say they used to do ultrasounds in training.
Yeah.
But we never did it at all. I don't remember ever doing head ultrasounds
We
in
didn't
training.
have the resources. We simply did not have the resources for it. I can't imagine at the National Referral Hospital an ultrasound. Well, you know what?
I think
maybe
now they
one
have
day.
one.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm told now they have one.
Yeah, but back then, we didn't have that resource so that we can be able to learn from it. If it wasn't on the unit, we couldn't practice with it. Yeah. So
learning that. Sometimes here, you feel like, okay, this is what we need to do for this baby, but we don't have that resource. So you almost want to give up, but even as much as you want to try, there's only so much you can do. But there, it was unlearning that. There is a resource. You can move this baby. Learning that and learning when to do that. Unlearning the
lack of resource.
The lack of resource and having so much available.
Yeah, what was that like as a learner for you to get from that point from, goodness, there are actually resources here. We don't have to
it was,
do all this up, down, sideways to make it sort of work.
It took a lot.
Yeah.
And then after almost 2 years or so, I got to the other end.
Wow. It took 2 years of just getting used to that?
I mean, initially, it took a few months or so to get to that point where there's a lot of resources. I'm coming from zero, not zero, as in limited resources to a point where, okay, now there are resources. So maybe 6 months in, I'm like, okay, we can do X, Y, Z for this baby.
Yeah.
Now, 2 years in, I'm at the point where someone is saying to me, we should let go. That's the reverse now.
Yeah.
We should let go because as much as we have, I don't think it's right for this baby.
Wow.
So getting to that point, to me was just a complete reversal. The more my training went on, the more I saw that, the more I could learn, okay, this is a baby we can save.
Yeah.
And then this is one I think we should just let go. Yeah. So just learning that.
That one, Kwanzaa, that one of letting go. I think there's so much hope in now we have resources, we can do the thing.
Yeah. If we get an answer.
Now you have the name for it and now you can treat it.
Yeah.
But then going from that to, yes, we have an answer. Yes, there are these treatment options. However, this is not going to help.
Yeah.
That's a tough one.
Yeah, that was a tough one. Yeah.
And what did that do to your spirit, that part?
Some days were really tough. Especially when you get to that point.
Yeah.
When you see how much the team has tried.
Yeah.
How much the parents have also put in.
Yeah.
It was a lot. I think one thing I loved about UK is there was a lot of psychological support. There was a lot of support.
Yeah.
So a lot of debriefing with psychologists regularly. They were available 3 times a week.
Wow. For staff, like
for
you
staff,
guys
for
in
staff,
neonatology.
For patients.
Yeah.
Yes, for staff, for patients. So if you needed a session, you could get one.
Yeah.
By the time my 2 years were done, so I was moving over to transport, which is way more complex.
Yeah.
Way more emotionally involving.
Yeah.
And more devastating.
Than where you are coming from.
Yeah.
So before we go to transport, I've heard you mention mental health. Were there any other challenges that you had, like in that first part in terms of the UK?
Oh, gosh. Okay. Family. I had never been away from my family for longer than, I think, 3 months.
Yeah, a school term.
Yes.
Oh, wow.
And not even a school term. There were breaks in between. Yes. There was visiting and what was the other one? Half-time.
Half-term,
yes.
Half-term. So there were those. Actually, it wasn't continuous 3 months.
It was never continuous. The only time it was ever continuous was when I did my internship.
Yeah.
So when I was in Meru, we were very few interns.
Yeah.
So when I did obstetrics, we were only 2. So I was on call today.
Every other
day.
Then I already saw that rota. I was like, oh my gosh. Every
other day. 3 months.
In Meru.
In Meru, yes.
Because Meru's busy.
Meru is busy. Meru had 500, 600 deliveries back then.
Per what?
Per month.
Per month?
Per month. And then you had about 150 CSs in a month.
Per month.
So you were splitting them.
Yes.
Yeah. Roughly, you were doing about 70 or so in a month.
Yeah.
So
70 C-sections.
Yes.
By yourself.
Yes.
Ooh.
So
I got tendinitis from doing C-sections.
I remember I joined from peds.
Yeah.
We went to obstetrics.
Yeah.
And within 2 weeks, I remember someone looking at me and going, "You've lost weight."
That was the first thing.
Yeah.
After peds, la la la, children save the world too.
No, and I remember, I don't know why, but there was a time when the ministry was asking for our pictures.
Yeah.
And I remember I still have that picture, and it does not look like me at all. At all.
What?
And
so now it was this 3 months. That was the longest time.
That was the longest. But I remember my dad came to visit in Meru once.
Yeah.
And every other day my mom would call and ask me when those women will stop delivering.
So that you can
that we can come home to Nairobi. Yeah. Because Nairobi to Meru was roughly about 4 hours.
Yes.
So it doesn't make sense on your day off to go to Nairobi and come back.
That's a whole day.
Yeah, it's a whole day. So it doesn't make any sense. So at the beginning, I just told my mom, I'm not coming back until August.
Yeah.
By that time, I'll have finished.
Yes.
1 week in, she's like, "Have you finished your rotation?"
I can see your mom asking that for...
And she's like, "No, I'm not bored. I'm just wondering when you're coming home."
Oh, bless her heart.
I know.
Because, I think it's the one thing for your parents to be proud. You're now a doctor.
Yes.
And then the actualization.
The actual work.
The actual work where they're like, "Where's my child?"
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was the longest.
That was the longest.
Yeah.
That was the longest time.
Yeah.
Then I go to UK.
Yeah.
And before I went to UK, I was working, and every other weekend I was home.
Yeah.
And when I was home, I was literally around for sometimes 3-4 days.
Yeah.
So I was always at home, always around my siblings, my parents, a lot.
Yeah.
Then switch that to you go to UK.
Yeah.
And then I think when it hit me is the first 2 weeks.
Yes.
When now I'm like, okay, I can't see them physically.
Yeah.
I can only, text, call, all that.
Yeah.
But physically, they can't be here. Yeah. So that took a bit of a challenge. And I remember, I think it was 2 weeks later, and I decided, okay, I cannot do this.
Yes.
Yes, one of you is coming to visit.
Yeah. One of you must come.
Someone must come to visit.
Somebody get on a flight.
Yes, someone get onto a flight.
Yeah.
Come in. I was a bit lucky because my cousins were in Birmingham. I was in London. Yeah. And I had friends in Birmingham as well. So every so often I could go and visit, but it's never the same as, your siblings, your parents.
Yeah.
So that when it got a little tough then.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think it was a little okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a doable fellowship.
It was a doable fellowship.
Yeah. And the switch of systems from a Kenyan medical system to the UK medical system, how was that adjustment for you?
That took some time. Mm-hmm. What the UK have done very well, in my opinion, because they've always had foreigners coming into the NHS system. Yeah. There's always that adjustment period put in for an individual to adjust. Mm-hmm. They also do orientation. The college runs
good orientation?
A very good orientation. Yeah, so you have orientation for 2 weeks in the hospital. Yeah. There's an orientation with the college. Yeah. Also about the norms and practices and culture in UK. I remember part of what was in the orientation is don't be too surprised if someone says to you, "Hey, Jerry, love, pass me the cannula."
Hey!
Because
Love
what?
Yeah, love who?
Or darling, bring the ultrasound machine
Before your heart
like
goes
that.
parakasha. Just know it's part of conversation.
Just know this is part of normal UK conversation.
Wow.
Yes, yeah.
At least you are able to orient you also in just the regular things.
Yes, the regular things.
Yeah.
And then learning the system. Yeah. So it takes you about 2 weeks before you can properly do a shift.
Yeah.
And then even without, now you get gradually into it.
Yeah.
And then, especially if you're coming in as a pediatrician, going into the system. So you start off as a junior. Mm-hmm. And then once they see that your competencies and skills have built, then now they throw you to the next level, which is now higher skills, a bit of leadership. Yeah. So it's a very gradual orientation. Yeah. The systems, definitely very different. Mm-hmm. So learning that, I don't feel like it was that difficult. Yeah.
It sounds like that intentional, sort of like gradual, like adding on.
Yeah, just really adding on. Yeah. You already know what this is. It's a lot of paperwork as well. Mm-hmm. So handing over with a piece of paper that you prepare on the computer. Yes. And printing that and making sure everyone has a copy.
Don't remind me. First time I looked at people, I was like, what are these papers? They're like, Jerry, you're supposed to have printed over the handover sheet.
What's everyone holding?
What are you reading?
Yes.
And then
where did you get that information?
And then the electronic medical record that we were using used to depend on the way you've signed in. So because I was both peds and adolescent medicine, if I signed in as adolescent medicine, it would look different.
Adolescent. Yeah.
So a lot of the peds things would be blank. There's a time I printed out blank and I was just like, I don't know what's happening. So they're like, how did you sign in, Jerry? And I was just like, what do you mean? I signed in as Jerry. And it was like 5 minutes of, no, Jerry. They were like, did you sign in as pediatrics or as adolescent medicine? Yes. I was just like, this is the problem of too much. Yeah. Too much is bringing problems. Yes. So, in fact, you said that and I'm just
it was, I remember walking in and every day someone would give me a piece of paper. And then one of these days, I was the one supposed to be giving out papers.
Yes.
I had no idea. Where do these papers come from? How do you generate them?
How do you print? And then guys are looking at you like, yes, it's your turn.
Yes, it's your turn. And then using a piece of card that looks like an ATM to actually get the printer to work.
Oh, yes.
It's just, it's so...
It sounds so simple.
I know. Yeah.
And even that thing of logging on and logging off the comp, and guys are like, why aren't you using your work ID to log on to the comp? And I'm just like, I didn't know it could do that. They're like, so you keep typing in your name everywhere you go. I'm like, So they're like, please just tap.
Yeah. Tap and go.
Tap and go.
Tap and go, yes. Yeah.
I know. There are people who are like, this is the most like everyday thing. But for us, where quite literally, yes, we had an electronic medical record where we worked, but then you didn't log on and off like your work ID and this thing of printing out. In fact, we used to be in trouble for printing too much. We used to be told to geo trees, nini. Yeah. So we didn't print too much. So I can understand why they're like, hey, let's just teach this guys. Because this seems very ordinary for us, but for you guys,
it was. Yeah. It was very odd.
And so having gone through this experience and this being a great learning experience for you, I had you mention transport. Yeah. So what made you make the decision? I am not yet done with suffering with education. And I want to get something else.
Yeah. I think one of the things is when I was in my second year, I felt like there's still so much I don't know. There's still so much I want to learn. So I either do another job within the UK or I can find something. But almost at the beginning of my second year, someone had mentioned to me, you could do transport. Mm-hmm. You could do neonatal transport.
What's neonatal transport?
So it works differently in different countries. Mm-hmm. So in the UK, you have a system within a network of an area where your primary responsibility as the medical and nursing team is to move sick babies from one hospital to another hospital. And the way the UK NHS system is designed is you don't always find all subspecialties within one hospital. So you can have a NICU in one hospital, but then the cardiologist and the cardiac surgeons are in another hospital, or the surgeons are pediatric surgeons are in a different hospital.
Yeah.
So the minute you have a pediatric surgical complication that needs urgent attention, the baby needs to move from that unit to another unit. And the way it works in London is you call a specific central area with your emergency to make a referral. So I want to move this baby from hospital X to hospital Y because these are the things that they have. And so they connect you to that hospital or the available hospital.
Yes.
Because sometimes the available hospital may not be slightly within your network. You might need to be moved out slightly.
Yeah.
So you speak to them, they tell you what you need to do in the immediate time. Yeah. And then they will send the transport team. So then it's almost like a three-way conversation between the referring unit, the receiving unit, and the transport unit.
Yes.
So those are three different teams.
So you wanted
three different
to do
consultants.
Three different consultants. So you wanted to do a fellowship in transport.
Yes.
Now that whole...
Yes. So you were in the middle of it.
Yes.
So you then get a call.
Yeah.
And you have to respond and figure out how you're going to go, stabilize the baby, and move them from that unit to the other unit. And you did that. That's all you did.
Yeah.
Morning till evening.
That's all you did.
That's all you did.
Which is different from Kenya, where we're like, please give this person admission rights. And then they come to you.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's it's very different.
Yeah.
So,
you
woke up in the morning. It was quite rigorous, quite involving.
Yeah.
But very fulfilling as well. And you learn so much. And you learn to work a lot with other specialties. Yeah. Because you work a lot with nurses. Yeah. And paramedics as well. And then also just learning to communicate with different doctors. Because, of course, if you don't bring that handover paper...
Yes, the famous paper.
Yes, or something so... It seems like it's such a small thing for you. Then, emails will be flying around.
That they didn't bring the paper.
They didn't receive the paperwork that was necessary for... So you had to learn how to do things the correct way. Yeah. But I think also just be very... almost procedural.
In an emergency setting.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
In an emergency setting.
Because in emergency...
Very consequential,
I feel like...
Yes.
Just pick and go. But this one you're saying, you actually had to learn how to be procedural in that way.
My first few episodes...
Yeah.
There's a difference between a unit clinician and a transport clinician. Yeah. So when you're in the unit, you could be there for 12 hours, 14 hours, whatever. Some places like Canada, 24 hours. Yeah. And so if I make a change on a baby, I'm there long enough to see what that change has done. And so I can either go back on that change or actually continue to progressively make that change towards a certain direction. With transport, you don't have the luxury of time. Yeah. So you can only do what is necessary to stabilize the baby for your transport. Yes. And make sure they arrive on the other side stable.
And this is what you wanted to willingly do?
Actually, I enjoyed it. It was was emotional. Yeah. But I really enjoyed it.
Wow.
By the way, I really did.
And were you planning to do it, did you do it in the UK?
I had a 2-year contract.
Okay.
I had a 2-year contract after my 2-year contract for fellowship.
After fellowship, you had another 2 years?
I had another 2-year contract.
Okay.
Yeah. Neonatal transport job. I'd already started my applications for Canada.
Okay. And in Canada, it was to do still transport?
No, this was a full fellowship, full different fellowship.
A whole other we're getting there. Okay, so you were already doing application.
For another fellowship.
For another fellowship while you were doing your second neonatal fellowship.
Job-ish,
Job fellowship. Job fellowship.
Yes.
Let's go.
Yes.
Job fellowship.
Yeah.
So now what was this other thing you wanted to do while you were having this very...
I think... I mean, at the end of within my 2 years, I was like, okay, what have I been exposed to? What have I learned? Yeah. What have I not been exposed to? Yeah. Where can I learn this? How can I challenge myself to be better? Yeah. And then because I knew I was coming back to Kenya, I wanted to be sort of all-rounded. And I actually got some advice from Mr. Mogere. He's a close family friend. So I remember he told me that make sure by the time you're going back, you're not going to be regularly consulting people you left behind. You know, you can't have a case of pneumonia and you're like, I don't know how to. Let me ask Professor so-and-so how to.
You need to.
Yeah. So by the time you're going back, make sure you have most of your skills.
Yeah.
And maybe one or two things can evade you.
Yeah.
But those you can easily consult the wider neonatal group.
Yeah.
But those certain little things, make sure you have all that with you before you're going back.
That's really good advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had told me about his experience. So I thought, okay, I probably need more than 2 years to do this.
Yeah.
So that's when I made this journey of I need more time. So that's when I started off with the transport. Because at the time, I didn't know the Canada thing would come through.
So you'd already started?
I'd started earlier, say somewhere in, was it June, July, or earlier than that?
Yeah.
And then transport was sort of confirmed a bit early. I think I started a bit earlier, started the process a bit earlier, confirmed maybe in July.
Yeah.
So I knew I had transport.
Yeah.
Somewhere in October is when now I started doing interviews for Canada. And so at that point is when, I do have other options.
Yeah.
As in, I'm getting a few other offers.
Yeah.
So maybe there's another path to it. And so the question was, do I do my 2 years in UK?
Yes.
To finish transport?
Yes.
Or do I just jump on to the rest?
Yeah.
Because I was going to Vancouver and I knew they had transport as well, I felt like I could leave this job in between and then go and start the other fellowship in Canada.
Fellowship.
Yeah.
So what fellowship was this that was going to be in Vancouver?
It was perinatal neonatal.
Okay.
Basically. So it was a full fellowship. This was under a university.
Yeah.
The previous ones were, like the UK one, it was under the college. I had experiences in 3 hospitals, then with transport. So almost like 3.5.
Yeah.
So that was more work experience, lots of work experience with a lot of learning as well on the side.
Yeah.
Very self-driven.
Yes.
At that point.
And how was that transition for you from now the UK? Because now you've talked to us about Kenya to UK, but now UK to Canada.
Yeah.
How was that transition?
So that was, from a personal perspective, it was difficult. It was during COVID.
Wow.
I could have taken a break in between for about 2 months, which I did actually buy a ticket and wanted to come home.
Yeah.
But then with COVID, couldn't travel. So I just had to transition directly from UK to Canada.
Yeah.
And then slightly about 6 months before I got to Canada, my mom passed away.
Wow.
So at that point, it was, I don't want to do this. I don't want to leave. I just want to stay at home. I just want to be in Kenya.
Yeah.
I literally even thought, maybe I can do farming. I could sell wheat.
Anything.
As long as I'm here, I don't want to leave.
Yeah.
But I'd gone into the whole process. And when you talk about expenses, as in there are expenses when you're processing, moving from one side to the other side, basically. So that whole immigration process, I'd already paid for some of that. I'd already gone in too far in.
Yeah.
So I kind of felt like, okay, fine, just do your 2 years and come back.
Hey,
do your 2 years and come back.
But then this is hard to hear in terms of mom has passed away and I'm so sorry about mom passing. But what got you back on that? Because grief makes people
it makes
drop
you
things and like I've had very many different experiences with grief.
I think I had a lot of support from friends and family. The people who were already in Vancouver were super helpful. So that's Yvonne and Brian. In terms of, okay, they're asking me to do this paperwork. I can't see that email.
Yeah.
And then just like literally just working with you, because when you're mourning, there's a part of your brain that just shuts off and you can't function properly.
Yeah.
There are certain things people would put right in front of you.
Yeah.
It could be a written piece of paper. You could read it incomplete, but you may not understand it.
Yeah. But you've read it.
You've read it. You've understood everything that's on it.
Yeah.
You followed all the instructions. So I used to get these emails from Vancouver and I'm wondering, why are you asking me? I've already filled this form. Why are you asking me? I've already filled this form. So Yvonne and Brian would just walk me through and go, no, wait, you haven't filled that.
You need to. And this is Dr. Yvonne Nyakeri and Dr. Brian Mahugo.
Yes.
Who are in BC also
at the
doing
time.
fellowships.
Yeah. So
shout out to them, by the way.
Kudos.
Hey,
oh my gosh.
Peweni flowers. As we're hearing this story, Peweni flowers.
It was just... It was crazy. They would walk me through, okay, you need to do this, you need to do that.
Yeah.
Have you applied for this? Have you done this? And a few things were a little different from my process, which was in 2020. Nyakeri had gone in 2019. Brian had gone in 2018. So every year, the university was changing a couple of things to make it easier for the fellow.
But at the same time, it's a moving target.
Yes.
I'm just like, I
so
thought
like,
this was
did
the
you apply for 2 visas? No, I applied for 1 visa. Okay, I think they're asking me for 2 visas. I'm not sure what that means. You know, all that. And then emailing back and forth with the university. Are we really opening in July? Because, there's COVID and everything is shut down. What's going to happen?
Yeah.
If you can make it, come in July. And for sure, school started in July.
Yes.
Whether you were there or not, school started in July.
Even as guys who are signed up for virtual school, we're told, Msijali, as in you're going to have to start. Yeah. When you land physically, we'll adjust.
Exactly. Yeah. So just adjusting to that, it was very emotional. So there are times when I'm trying to process that. Then I'm away from my family. Then I can't go to Birmingham because, London is locked down. You think you have COVID. You're going to work, you reach the office, there's no one there because people have COVID. I'm doing transport, you go to different units. Yeah. People are sick. Yeah. It was so emotional. Yeah. I was always crying. I remember when my flight was cancelled from London, I cried. I cried so hard. Yeah. I just cried, as in I couldn't take it anymore. What? And then it took me a couple of days to then now just decide, okay, you're not going to Kenya. Yeah. It's going to be very expensive for you to go to Kenya. Then do a quarantine in a hotel. Yeah. Then move from there, go home, and then stay for a few weeks, and then go to Canada, and then quarantine again. It's just, it's too much.
That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot. So,
but were you able to travel during Mom's funeral?
Oh, yeah. Oh, that time I had a lot of support from where I worked. So the transport team I worked for were very supportive. Yeah. Oh my gosh, they actually used to even call and text and ask whether I could do a shift. Yeah, as in, let's check in with you first before we put your name down. Yeah, are you ready to start on 15th? Yeah. Because that's when you're supposed to do your next shift. Yeah. And if not, they would move the dates by another 3 or 4 days. Wow. Or whatever, however long you needed it. Yes.
Shout out to them because not all units are like that.
Yeah, it was very useful. Yeah. And I remember one of the first few shifts I went to, when I got back, the baby was dying. And my consultant got onto the phone with the unit consultant at the time. So this is the transport consultant talking to the unit consultant and just saying, she can't do the end of life talk.
Yes.
Because, because her mom just died. So I remember we just got the call and then we're just told to just go back to the unit. And I don't remember doing any transport job that day after that. So that's one of the things I loved about London. The emotional and mental support.
Yeah. I don't know why I'm tearing up. I'm sorry.
I know. Yeah. So even under normal circumstances, they would try not to put you with another case or job or something like that, if possible. Of course, if there's another job, you have to do it if there's no one else. Yeah. But if there isn't something else, they could easily ask you to go home.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was that supportive.
I think that kind of support where someone is so aware.
Yes.
It's just that awareness of, no, you can't do that.
You can't do that, no.
You can't do that, no. And this is not someone who's even in the room.
Yeah.
It's somebody
so it
who
was
is...
me on the phone telling the consultant, I think this baby is going to die. And him telling me, give the consultant the phone. Now. Yeah. Yeah. And then the next thing, I got the phone and Phanice, leave. Yeah. Yeah. Just go back to the ambulance.
Shout out to that person because I think in medicine, we're always told to be so hard, check your emotions at the door, things like that. Yeah. And to actually have someone very consciously just tell you, No.
Yeah.
We know this is just going to tip you over.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, or even if it's not going to tip you over, we don't want to find out.
Yeah.
It's just the humane thing to do is just take a step back, let someone else deal with it.
Yeah.
Which goes back to what you were saying in terms of you're not alone.
Yeah, you're not alone.
You're not the only person to handle this
you're
baby.
not alone. You're not the only person who is there. There are many other people.
Yeah.
There's a whole community of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't have to be alone.
So now, as in back to this story of now you've transitioned,
so I've transitioned
to a different fellowship.
Yeah.
And how was now that transition into the Canadian medical system from the UK now? Because it's a new adjustment.
Yes. To start with, by the way, it's for those who are listening, it's much easier to move from one Western country to another Western country.
Interesting.
Than it is to move from, say, an African country or your home country to a Western country. Because you have their similarity. You know, it's like you're not starting from gear 1.
Yeah.
You're probably starting from gear 5.
Okay.
Yeah. Or we're at this slightly at the same level-ish.
Yeah.
So they're more willing to give you a chance. Mm-hmm. That's what I found from my experience anyway.
Yeah.
And so coming in, it was just a matter of just learning what this new different system was.
Yes.
So, interesting enough, the system they use in UK is the same as the one they use in British Columbia, or at least in Vancouver.
Yeah.
So that wasn't too hard of a transition in terms of systems.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
The handover system, of course, was a little different.
This handover.
The language, in terms of, the North American grammar, and then there's the British grammar. Slight differences there, nothing much.
Yeah.
And then the way they do ward rounds, the way the hospitals are designed, that's very different. Mm-hmm. There's also a transition orientation for about 2 weeks as well.
Yeah.
I felt like in Canada it was a little shorter. Mm-hmm. I feel like maybe just about 2 weeks or a month. I can't remember.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's also because of COVID. Because when we started, we're supposed to be 5, but we ended up being 2.
Yeah.
For about 3 or so months.
Wow. Because not everyone could come at the same time.
No one could come. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that became a bit of a challenge, but you learned a lot. Mm. And then there's different ways of doing it. So every hospital has its own way of doing something.
Yeah.
And of course, I've learned this from even internship.
Yeah.
Wherever you go, you have to earn the trust of the nurses. You have to earn the trust of your colleagues. You have to earn the trust of your consultants or your seniors.
All over again.
Exactly. And it doesn't matter who you are, where you're from, what you've done. It all comes down to zero.
And it won't
does
always
not matter.
And then it's not a matter of buying people cakes and G-What and saying, hi guys, I'm the one who's buying tea today. It's not that. It's quite literally.
You have to prove to them.
Prove yourself.
Yeah, you have to prove yourself.
That thing used to make me really sad because, in pediatrics, just given how we had done our postgrad, we all had a sense of this is how this person works, this is their strength, this is this. Yeah. And so I prided myself in that. I won't lie. Yeah. Because there are certain things guys will be like, Jerry can do that. Jerry can sort you out. Oh, Jerry's the pediatrician on this. Yeah. You're sorted. Yeah. But then I go into this place where, who is Jerry? Yeah. In the grand scheme of things, who's Jerry?
We don't know her.
We don't know her.
We don't know what she can do.
Yeah. And it's easier for me to assume you can do nothing than for me to assume you can do things and be disappointed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So that thing really used to hurt. But then at the end of it, like at the end of the 2 years is when guys would be like, oh, it's Jerry on call. Yeah. Then you'd see there's some consultants who'd be like, oh, it's Jerry. Okay, give her the phone this.
Yes. Yeah. Can I just say, getting to that point of, oh, it's Jerry who's doing this. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That was very sweet when I got to UK because when I arrived, so you start off at, the lowest level. Yeah. And then we don't know what skills you have. Yeah. So let's assess you for the next few months and see what skills you have. Yeah. And the way it works in UK is if there's a procedure to be done, you give the junior most person the first attempt. Yes. Then it goes to the next level, that, yeah? Yeah. So it was a bit shocking. Yeah. Sometimes when, say, for example, you needed to intubate a newborn. Yeah. And then I'm like, can I try? And then I go in and it's in. Yes. And then I remember one time registrar saying to me, if I knew you were that skilled, I wouldn't give you the shot.
Because they're supposed to.
Yes, as in, they think you'll try, you'll fail. Okay, then I'll do it.
Then I'll do it.
Yes.
So then I will have still done my skill.
I will still have my skill. Yeah, I'll still have tried.
Now you are taking...
And then it got to this point. They're like, oh, wait, oh, gosh, no.
Phanice knows what she's doing. Yeah. But that's a sweet moment.
Yeah, it was a very sweet moment, by the way. And I remember one of my... So highs and lows. One of my other sweet moments was... had a baby who was quite small and had, I think, either upper GI or pulmonary hemorrhage. I can't remember. Yeah. And so the consultant turns around. Yeah. And there's a registrar and I'm the SHO at the time.
So this patient is bleeding from
This patient
somewhere.
is bleeding and unstable.
Yeah.
Like the SATs are dropping, we're bagging and putting in things, basically.
Yeah.
So we needed to secure the airway, which is intubation.
Yeah.
And so the consultant comes in and I think I can't remember whether we found the registrar trying to intubate, I can't remember. Yeah. Or taking out the tube, I can't remember anyway. And so they asked me to actually intubate. Yeah. And so I went in, I saw where the blood was coming from, suctioned, and then I think the SAT started dropping. Yeah. So I came out, but I'd seen the vocal cords. Yeah. Okay. And I remember the consultant asking me, so what did you see? Did you see the vocal cords? Yes. Okay. So, where's the blood coming from? Yeah. And I was like, I think it's upper GI. I'm not sure. Yeah. Okay, fine. And then the consultant turning over to the registrar and explaining why they're going to let me try again.
Ooh.
Yes, which is, she's already seen the vocal cords. Yeah. So it's going to be easier for her to actually put the tube in.
Because she's seen it. She's visualized.
Seen it. Yeah, she's seen it. She's visualized. Yeah. There's no point of actually attempting with someone new. Yeah. At this point. She's already seen them. So let's let her go in a second time. That was a very sweet moment. And
I know people who are not in the medical space are like, child bleeding. Why is it a sweet moment? Yeah. But then those skills.
It's the trust.
It's that trust.
It's that
element.
Trust of, at this point, I trust you.
So fast forward to BC. Where was your
my sweet spot
or sweet moment?
I think when I came in. Yeah. To BC, people already knew I had a few skills because I had come from transport and I'd come from UK. Yeah, I think there was a friend, my friend now. Yeah, there's a guy who had been in the unit who had been in UK. Mm-hmm. So I was joining in as a first-year fellow. He was a second-year fellow. Yeah, so he was from UK. Yeah, so having known that, as in,
this person
it's not going to be so skills-wise, we're going to be, okay. Yeah. So that was good. Yeah. But I don't know, when was the sweet spot? Yeah. Sweet spot, I think it came a little later from that perspective. Yeah. I remember sitting in the fellows' room typing a discharge summary, which was the other thing we had to do.
Yes, and that you have to learn. Yes. And flowery.
Yes, typing district summaries and typing admission notes. Yes, where you had to be very flowery and it was very sweet though.
It was very sweet, but then
they were very sweet because at the end you could always leave your own little personal touch.
Me, I did have a my personal touch was Jerry was succinct. That was my personal touch. I remember one of my teachers actually saying, "This is how I know it's Jerry's note," even before she has signed. It's so succinct to the point. Like, my notes were almost in bullet points. Because I'm just like, when you look at this note, I need you to know very quickly what's happening. Gosh. But not this, then a beautiful boy, a beautiful girl. I
learned to do that in the UK.
Oh my gosh.
So by the time I was coming to Canada, I had a bit of that. And, this beautiful...
beautiful language.
And then I had to shed away the baby boy of so-and-so and just, use the baby's name. Right. Yeah. So that was, sweet.
Yeah. So you're here writing a discharge summary.
I'm here writing a discharge summary and the consultant walks in and I think they are intubating. Yeah. And this was a very interesting... He was a very interesting consultant. Yeah. Where he's not asking you something directly. Yeah. But he's also implying something. He's like, hi, how are you? How is everything? Okay. Do you have a job back in Kenya? No. Oh, okay. Now, they're intubating. I don't know if you want to be next to their bed while they're intubating.
Yes.
So essentially,
stop what you're doing.
Yes, could you be their backup just in case?
Stop what you're doing. Run.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, could you just be, those were that was like a sweet moment.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. And then also the whole, I don't know, Phanice, have you thought about it? Do you want to do third year?
Like
when you're in Canada,
yes.
And I'm like, no, I've done my 5 years.
Yeah.
I'm going back home.
5 years.
I've done 5 years.
Of neonatology.
Yes. I need to be home, man.
I'm so glad you stayed tuned. Please get the word out and share it with at least 3 people. Make this episode like a chain letter. Share it, share it, share it. Come back for the next leg of our safari, where we'll be talking about...
Think about what's right for you, and then identify the institution that will give you what you want and not need. Want. Yes. And then find out if that's achievable. So I always say, for every institution that you're in, they have a vision, they have a mission, they have a goal.
Okay.
Find out if those match with yours.
Listeners are advised to use their own judgment and discretion when applying any information discussed in this and all podcast episodes to their specific situation. Always seek the advice of a qualified professional if you have any concerns or questions regarding a particular subject matter. You can find this and other episodes of this podcast on our website at www.fellowshipsafaris.org. You can also find all our episodes on all podcast platforms. Reach out to us on social media as Fellowship Safaris on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, and our Twitter handle is @fellowshipsafar. You could also send us an email on fellowshipsafaris@gmail.com. We look forward to hearing from you and interacting with what you have to say about the Fellowship Safaris podcast. It takes a village to make this podcast. The executive producer and original music is done by Mokavi Maweu. The sound engineer is Tevin Sudi with thanks to AQ Studios. Graphic design was done by Benjamin Mboya. We would like to give a special shout out to Josephine Karianjahe and Melissa Mbogwa of Africa Podfest. All rights reserved by Dr. Jerry Kariajahe and the Fellowship Safaris podcast.